to conduct matters of business, guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities, so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being our source of guidance today. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we will go to approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and a second. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Move to citizens' comments. Who was first on that? Callie, or Mayor Blade, apologize.
We have no citizens' comments tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll go to approval of the minutes from the May 14th, 2019 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Blade, Anderson, any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys. We have no new business. We will move into old business. Sweetbriar Springs subdivision discussion on current road and curb profile, owner Marlon Cunningham. Now, we'll just default if you guys have any update or comments, staff.
Yes, sir. Members of the commission, we are still working with the developer. As you're aware, we had a conversation at the last meeting about some of the infrastructure at Sweetbriar Spring, or Sweetbriar Phase 2. A few of the things specifically that are being looked at are the width of the street itself. That matter came before you, and there was some discussion of that. Second was the stormwater intake themselves, the construction of the curb and gutter, and how those were different than what was approved on the original construction diagram. And lastly, in meeting with the developer, there was some change to the stormwater management within the subdivision because of the change to the storm drain inlets along the roadway. What we've asked the developer to do is get with their engineer, bring back revised construction drawings as they currently are and what's being requested, so that there'll be documents to compare what you have that was previously approved with what's being proposed, and then consider those three things as variances as they would have been considered had they been proposed to you on the original submission. That's where we are. We don't have those documents. I don't want to speak for the developer. We have been in email communication back and forth between the developer and his engineer. We understand that we will likely have those drawings for you prior to the next planning commission meeting. It's our understanding that the developer's engineer will be submitting those. We'll get those out to each of you, and then the consideration at that point would be a waiver of those as requested with the new drawings. My suspicion is they will present to you what they've already constructed in some form, and then you would simply consider what's already constructed as opposed to what was approved. So that's the update that I have for you tonight from staff. Mr. Sullivan may have additional follow-up, but that's where, or Mr. Blackburn, city's engineer on this project. But that's a simple update as to where we are right now.
Thank you, sir. Any additional discussion from staff down here? Mr. Cunningham, do you have any questions on what they're waiting for or what they're wanting to see?
Yes, sir. I understand that they wanting, don't know for sure if it's an as-built is what they're wanting, or just a cross-section of the road, what it is now, the width and the curbs. Because an as-built usually comes at the end of the, after you get it platted and before you accept it, you get an as-built. Is the way normally as-built is. I need to make sure I'm understanding exactly what you're wanting to do there.
Yes, sir. I can resend the email to everyone, but no one's mentioned an as-built.
Okay.
The specific discussions that have been had were that there's a set of construction plans that were previously approved by the Planning Commission. The construction that's in the ground is not what was approved by the Planning Commission at the time the construction plans were approved. What we've asked for are a new set of revised construction plans for what's currently being installed or has been installed. so that the planning commission could then review what's proposed versus what was approved. We're not asking for as-built, we're asking for to-be-built, as-built, whatever the status they are. So you will be able to know exactly what you're deferring from and moving to in that process.
Understand that, Mr. Cunningham. So you would submit to us almost as like you were from square one, but you were planning on putting in what you put in currently to date. And then you would
Okay.
list the variances that are different than what our city standards would be.
Okay. All right. So
And
that's something that, so you just have to come back again next month in order to have that. What it was, this was something that kind of got real quick due to the engineer. He was behind on some other projects and was not able to get me anything. I begged him to get something for this meeting because this is gonna cost me another 30 days. And he just did not have time to get to it. And that's why I was here tonight, to answer any questions and see if there's any way that, with the last meeting that we had, I think I may be wrong, but I think I'm getting some support with the board on what we have, as long as the calculations was okay with the runoff. And I think you can ask the engineer about the calculations of the runoff. I think we're okay on that now. I am gonna put in a swale in behind, I think it's lot number 29, 30, 31, and 32 to help with some runoff that was coming back there anyway.
I think that's kind of the goal of staff. What I'm getting is, if you submit those plans as they currently are, then they can review to see if they are going to function, just to try and calculate, to try and look at those, to give us feedback based on what those drawings show. And
Okay.
So, this board could defer, this board could make a motion based off staff approval. It could, you can make different assumptions from here, but right now it feels like our staff would feel more confident bringing it back to us after they've had a chance to review it, so they can present to us just like as if you were presenting this neighborhood with those adjustments.
Could I ask the city engineer your input on your feeling about what we've done here? Because I know you said in the meeting on Friday that you would look at that and kind of have an answer for me on that, I think.
Blackburn?
Yes, I've taken a look at the grading and drainage plan sheet update that's been provided, and it appears that, the spread calculation, which is the water going into the street, has been reduced. However, without having the other sheets and the updates that have been done to the site, it's difficult to tell what that may affect in other areas. So really, right now, I have one updated plan sheet,
Okay,
and I would need more to be able to make that assessment.
fair enough. I just trying to make sure I understood.
Thank you, sir.
And wasn't there, on these inlets, where they went from a 24 to 18, didn't we need some calculations to make sure that the 18 would be adequate?
I think that would be in that stormwater.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I know we was talking about swells, I was just,
We think from what has been discussed, and again, this is preliminary, as Mr. Blackburn said, we have a small portion of what we need. We think that the 18s are going to work at the inlets themselves. From what happens from the inlets downstream, we think we're okay with. It's what happens upstream, because the flow of water within the subdivision has now changed based on those calculations. So what we're looking to do is make sure everything within the footprint of the subdivision above ground works as would not be adversely affected from what was previously approved.
Thank you, sir.
And I did put a vein grate in on that 18-inch that will take more water than just a regular straight drain. That was one thing that I made sure to do since it went from a 24-inch to 18.
Mr. Chairman, I feel that discussions on this matter are fruitless without what we've been asked to provide, and I would ask that the discussion cease until we have the proper plans in front of us to consider.
Thank you, sir. Would you like to make a motion to defer until we have the document?
I do, sir.
So moved. To have a second?
Second the motion.
Somebody say. We have a first and a second. Any additional discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Mr. Cunningham. If you get that stuff in, we can discuss it next month.
Could I ask what the turn-in date is?
Thursday, which is the 15th,
My engineer's going on vacation that week, so that's another thing that I'm kind of up against. All right.
All right, we'll move into items, bonds and letters of credit. Wynwood Park subdivision, Phase 1, irrevocable standby letter of credit expires June 29th, 2019.
I spoke with Mr. Biotti yesterday, I believe, yesterday. He told me that was already in the works, and also had sent an email from from Pinnacle Bank saying that that would be taken care of as of June 29th and will automatically roll to June 20th, 2020.
But you hadn't seen it yet, so anyone like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion to call the irrevocable standby letter of credit if it's not renewed by June 29th of 2019.
Second.
Burke, Blade, any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, guys. Reports and discussion information, city planning staff, Mr. Sullivan,
I have nothing tonight.
city manager, Mr. Collins,
No, sir.
city engineer, Mr. Blackburn,
Nothing, sir.
city attorney, Mr. Potter. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll go to communications from the planning commission members. Mr. Burks, Commissioner Burks.
I just want to apologize to this commission for running a few minutes late tonight.
Shoeless,
I got nothing.
Mr. Anderson,
Nothing tonight.
Mr. Bauer,
Nothing.
Mr. Kelly,
No, sir.
Ms. Walls,
No, sir.
Mayor Blade,
Nothing, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Jenkins.
No comment, sir.
Mr. Power told me we could make this under 15, so I'm going to talk for 3 more minutes. No, Mr. Collins asked if we could just stay a few minutes after. We're going to talk about some training stuff that we got coming, and that's all I got. Take a motion of adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Thank you very much, and I promise we will not be here late. Keith, are we on?